Daniel lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. The room was dark. The air was still. Only the slow tick of the clock on the wall reminded him that time was moving. Yet he could not sleep. Not really. For 15 years he had carried a secret, something he never told anyone, not his friends, not his family, not even the doctors when they asked about his sleepless nights. Every time he closed his eyes he heard a voice. It was not a normal voice, not the echo of his own thoughts. It was something different, something separate, something alive. Sometimes it was soft and calm. Sometimes it was sharp and cold, but it was always there, waiting for him in the silence of the night, whispering words that made no sense and yet somehow guided him. At first he thought he was imagining it. Maybe stress, maybe loneliness, maybe his mind playing tricks on him. But night after night the voice returned, never tired, never fading, always speaking with strange authority, like a teacher, like a master, like a jailer. It told him when to wake, it told him what dream to see, it told him what fear to feel. Daniel tried to fight it many times. He would stay awake until his eyes burned. He would play music. He would drink coffee. He would read books under the blanket. But no matter what he did, the moment he started to drift, the voice returned, whispering into his mind, "Calm yourself. Human," the voice would say. The same phrase, always the same, a command and a comfort, a chain hidden in gentle words. Years passed. Daniel grew older. He went to school. He found work. He tried to live a normal life. But the voice never left, and strangely, it began to shape his choices. Sometimes he dreamed of failure and avoided a path. Sometimes he dreamed of success and chased it with confidence. And in the end, things worked out. But he always wondered, were they his choices, or were they chosen for him? Tonight, however, was different. Tonight the voice sounded clearer than ever before. No whisper, no echo, but sharp, like someone standing right beside him. "Calm yourself, human," it said. But then the voice added something new, something Daniel had never heard. "For 15 years I have controlled your nights." Daniel froze under his blanket, his heart racing, his breath short, his skin turning cold, controlled. The word stabbed him like a knife. "What do you mean?" he whispered, his lips trembling. He never dared to answer before, never dared to speak back. But now the fear was too strong. The voice chuckled, low and smooth. "You always believed you dreamed freely. But your nights were never yours. I guided your fears. Your hopes, your visions, I shaped them because your kind was not ready for the truth." Daniel sat up, his eyes wide in the darkness, his throat dry. "Who are you?" he demanded, though his voice shook. There was silence for a long moment, the kind of silence that made the heart pound harder. Then the voice replied, "If I tell you, human, your world will change forever. The truth will break you." Daniel clenched his fists, anger mixing with fear. 15 years. 15 years of secrets, of control, of stolen nights. And now the voice dared to say it was for his own good. "You can't keep me in the dark anymore," Daniel whispered. "I want to know. I need to know." The voice grew softer, almost like a sigh. "Very well, human. But do not beg me for silence once you hear. Your mind has lived in shadows too long. The light will burn you." Daniel felt the air in his room grow heavy. The shadows seemed to deepen. The clock tick slowed as if time itself was bending. His chest tightened. He wanted to run, but his body refused. It was as if invisible hands held him in place. "Why me?" he asked, desperate. "Why have you been inside my head?" The voice answered in a calm tone, "Because you are different. Your mind resists and yet bends. Your spirit is fragile and yet strong. I chose you because you are the doorway." Daniel shook his head. "Doorway? Doorway to what?" The silence stretched again, longer this time. His ears rang as if the room itself held its breath. Then came the reply, chilling and final. "To the truth your kind fears most." Daniel's pulse thundered in his ears, his whole body trembled. His voice cracked as he forced out the words. "What truth?" The answer came slow, like thunder rolling in the distance. "That your dreams are not your own, human." And they never were. At that moment, Daniel swore he saw movement at the corner of his room, the faint outline of a figure standing at the edge of the shadows, tall, silent, watching. His heart stopped. His throat closed. The air was gone from his lungs. The voice spoke one last time, deeper, closer, as if the figure itself was speaking now. "Calm yourself, human, for tonight the truth begins." Daniel did not sleep the rest of that night. He lay frozen in his bed, his eyes fixed on the dark corner of the room where the figure had stood. He wanted to believe it was only his mind, only a trick of shadows, but deep inside he knew it was not. The voice was real, the presence was real, and the fear crawling up his spine was real. When the sun finally rose, Daniel staggered out of bed, his head heavy, his heart still racing, his body weak from no rest. But one thought burned in his mind. He needed answers. 15 years of silence had to end. He could no longer live as a prisoner to a voice he did not understand. He bought a notebook that morning, plain and simple, nothing fancy, and he began to write. Every dream he could remember from the past, every strange moment, every whisper, every command. Page after page filled with scribbles of broken memories. He noticed something he had never seen before. The dreams were not random. They formed a pattern, a chain that guided his steps in life. One dream told him to avoid a street. The next week that street had an accident. Another dream told him to trust a stranger. Later that stranger gave him a job. It was all connected, as if someone had written his life like a script. Daniel stared at the pages, his hands trembling, his breath shallow. It was never me, he whispered. I never made my own choices. That night, when darkness covered the city again, the voice returned stronger than ever. You should not search. Human, it said with cold calm. Knowledge is a fire, and you will burn your own hands. Daniel clenched his fists. He was tired of fear, tired of chains. You said you controlled my nights for 15 years, but why? Why me? Why any of us? The voice answered without hesitation. Because your kind was never meant to dream freely. Daniel's eyes widened, his chest tightened. What do you mean? The voice grew deeper, carrying weight. Dreams are doors, human. Doors to places your kind is not ready to enter. If you walked through them without guidance, your world would fall, your mind would break, so we guide you. We keep the doors locked, we keep you safe. Daniel shook his head violently, anger rising in him. Safe? You stole my life, you stole my mind, you made me nothing but a puppet. The silence that followed was heavy, until the voice spoke again, softer this time. Without us, you would not survive your own imagination. Daniel pressed his palms to his temples, his thoughts spinning, his heart pounding, his fear battling with fury. Then show yourself. Stop hiding in the dark. If you are real, prove it. For a moment there was no reply, only the sound of the wind against the window. Then Daniel felt it, a shift in the room, the air thickening, the shadows growing longer, and at the foot of his bed, something began to take shape, tall, thin, its outline shifting like smoke, eyes glowing faintly like dim embers. A figure stood where no one should stand. Daniel's blood turned cold, his throat dry, but he forced himself to speak. Who are you? The figure tilted its head, its voice echoing in the air, not just in his mind, but in the room itself. I am Corin. The name rang in Daniel's head like a bell, strange and heavy, carrying a weight of centuries. What are you? He whispered. Corin stepped closer, though its body seemed to ripple like water, never solid, never still. We are the Dream Keepers, guardians of the night, shapers of thought, watchers of your kind. Daniel's heart raced faster, the words sinking like poison. Guardians? No, you are jailers. You chained me. Corin's eyes glowed brighter, and the calm voice filled the room again. We chained you because your mind is dangerous. Human, all of your minds are. Without us, the dreams of your kind would tear holes in reality, and through those holes things would come. Things you could not fight, things that would end you. Daniel trembled, sweat running down his face. So you control us out of fear? Yes, Corin answered. Fear of what you may unleash. Daniel felt his anger rise again, stronger than fear now. If you control all humans, then how do I even know who I am? How do I know I'm not just one of your stories? Corin leaned closer, the room darkening around its form, the whisper sharp as a blade. Because, human, you resist, and that is why you were chosen. Daniel froze, his stomach dropping. Chosen? For what? Corin's form flickered like a candle flame, its voice dropping into a chilling tone. To learn the truth, and the truth will break you. Daniel's chest tightened, his vision blurred, his legs shook beneath him, but before he could speak, the figure melted back into shadow. Leaving only silence, the voice lingered in his head, soft and haunting. Sleep now, human, tomorrow you will see more. Daniel collapsed onto the bed, his body heavy, his mind burning with terror and questions. He tried to stay awake, but his eyelids fell, and as he drifted, he felt the shadow watching still, and for the first time, Daniel wondered if his dreams had never belonged to him at all. Daniel woke with his heart pounding, sweat soaking through his shirt. The morning light spilled through his window, Yet his room still felt heavy with shadows. His notebook lay open beside him, the last words he wrote the night before staring back at him like a curse. Dreams are doors, and I am the doorway. The memory of Corin's glowing eyes haunted him, the sound of that voice echoing inside his skull. He wanted to believe it was all a nightmare, but the notebook proved otherwise. Every word, every detail, every whisper was too sharp to be only a dream. At work, he could not focus. The hum of computers and the chatter of colleagues faded into nothing. All he heard was the echo of the voice. All he saw was the shifting figure in his room. He felt eyes on him even in daylight, as though Corin was never gone. That night, he prepared himself. He shut the blinds, locked the doors, turned off the lights, and sat on his bed with the notebook in his lap. If Corin was real, if this was more than madness, then Daniel wanted answers. Come back, he whispered into the silence, his throat dry, his hands trembling. If you truly exist, show yourself again. The silence stretched, cold and endless. Daniel almost gave up, until the air thickened once more. The shadows lengthened and the figure returned, its form rippling like smoke caught in unseen wind, its eyes glowing faintly in the dark. You call human? The voice echoed, not only in his head but in the very air of the room. You are braver than most. But bravery will not save you. Daniel swallowed hard, forcing the words out. I don't want riddles. I want the truth. Who are you? What are you really? The figure moved closer, its step soundless, its voice calm yet carrying power. I am Corin, a dreamkeeper, a guardian of the night. One of many who have walked within your kind for longer than your history remembers. Daniel gripped his notebook tight, his knuckles white. You said you've been controlling me for 15 years. Why me? Corin tilted its head, its form flickering like a broken reflection. Because you are different, your mind resists yet bends. Your spirit trembles yet endures. You are not the first human we have touched, but you are one of the few who can hear us clearly. Daniel's chest tightened, his voice shaky but firm. You make it sound like we are experiments. The glowing eyes of Corin narrowed. Not experiments, subjects of protection. Without us, your dreams would destroy you. Your imaginations are too wild, too strong. They tear at the fabric of what is real. Without us to guide them, your nightmares would walk beside you. Your fears would take flesh. Your hopes would devour the world. Daniel shook his head, refusing to believe. You want me to think you are protecting us, but you are just parasites, feeding on us while calling it protection. Corin's voice deepened, almost shaking the walls. Without us, you would already be ash. Daniel forced himself to stand, even though his knees trembled. Then why now? Why reveal yourself to me after all this time? Corin's form grew taller, darker, the shadows spreading across the room. Because you are changing? Your mind pushes against the chains, your dreams grow louder. You have begun to shape them on your own, and if you continue, you will break the barrier, and once it breaks, all of your kind will feel it. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. A flash of memory hit him. The last dream he had before waking. He remembered flying, bending the dream to his will. A freedom he had never known before. You're afraid, Daniel whispered. Realization dawning. You're afraid of me? Of us. Corin's eyes flared brighter, its voice rising with warning. We are afraid of what you may unleash, human. Your kind does not understand the danger. One dream unchecked can birth monsters that never die, and one human in the past proved it. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes wide. What human? Corin's form flickered, a ripple of anger in its shifting body. One who resisted long ago, one who pulled us from the shadows into the waking world. The cost was fire and death. The memory of it still burns through our kind. It nearly destroyed us. Daniel's stomach twisted. And what happened to that human? The answer came slow, each word heavy as stone. Silenced. Before he could bring the world down with him, the room fell silent again. Daniel's mind racing, his blood rushing in his ears. He understood the warning, yet he also felt a spark inside him, a spark that whispered this was not the whole truth. You say you keep us safe, but maybe you keep us weak, Daniel said through clenched teeth. Maybe you fear what humanity could become if we dreamed freely. Corin stepped closer until the cold of its presence pressed against Daniel's skin, its voice sharp as a blade. You are not ready for freedom. Human, if you continue, you will not only break yourself, you will break your world. Daniel held his ground, though his body shook, his words trembling but defiant. Then maybe it's time for the world to break. The shadows quivered around Corin. The glowing eyes burned brighter, But before the figure could speak again, the sound of the clock in Daniel's room thundered loud, the second hand ticking like a drum, and in a blink Corin was gone. Daniel collapsed back onto his bed, his chest heaving, his mind torn between terror and defiance. For the first time, he had spoken to the voice, not as a prisoner, but as a challenger, and as he closed his eyes, he knew the war between human and dreamkeeper had only just begun. The night after Corin's warning, Daniel could not rest. He tossed on his bed, staring into the ceiling, his mind burning with questions. His notebook lay open with half-finished sentences, lines of fear and defiance tangled together. The voice had called him a doorway, had spoken of another human who once resisted, and of fire and death, but the truth still felt incomplete. Daniel pressed his palms against his eyes, whispering to himself, "What are you hiding, Corin? What aren't you telling me?" The air in the room was heavy, thick with silence then, as if answering his thought. The whisper returned, deep and steady. "You cannot stop, can you? Human?" Corin's voice filled the shadows. "Your kind always reaches beyond the limits, even when it leads to ruin." Daniel sat up quickly, his pulse racing. "Tell me everything. What happened to the one before me? What really happened?" The figure began to take shape again, smoke swirling into a tall shadow, faint eyes glowing. "You think you want the truth, but truth is a weapon, sharp enough to cut the hand that holds it." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I don't care," you said. Another resisted. "Tell me what they did." Corin's form flickered, its voice carrying a low hum. "The one before you was a soldier, a fighter with a mind stronger than most. He saw the chains in his dreams, and he tore at them until the locks broke. And when they broke, he pulled us through." Daniel frowned, confused. "Pulled you through? What does that mean?" The shadows seemed to shiver as Corin continued. The barrier between dream and waking shattered. For the first time, one of us walked fully into your world, not as whispers, not as shadows, but as flesh. And when it happened, the nightmare followed. Daniel felt a chill crawl up his spine. A nightmare followed. Corin's eyes glowed brighter. When humans dream without guidance, they create freely, but not only light and hope. They create monsters, twisted shapes born from fear and anger. When the soldier broke free, he dreamed something terrible into being, a creature that devoured cities, a beast that turned men against each other, and it nearly consumed all. Daniel's stomach turned, his mind struggling to picture it. So what happened? How did it end? Corin's voice lowered, heavy with memory. We silenced him. We sealed the breach. The soldier's mind was crushed, his body left empty, and the nightmare was bound back into shadow. But the cost was great. Too many of us were lost. Too many of your kind were broken. Daniel gripped the notebook tighter. And you call that protection? You say you keep us safe. But all I hear is fear. You fear what we can do. You fear what we can create. Corin leaned closer, the air colder. Yes, human, we fear you. Because you are fire without control. Because even in chains you resist, even in silence you dream of freedom. And freedom is chaos. Daniel's voice shook, but he stood his ground. Maybe chaos is what we need. Maybe humanity deserves to dream without chains. Even if it's dangerous. Even if it scares you. The shadow hissed like wind through broken glass. You speak of freedom as if you understand it. But you have never lived one night without our hand on your mind. If you did, you would beg for chains again. Daniel's thoughts raced, his breath uneven, and then he remembered something. The last dream he shaped himself. The flight. The bending of the world. The power he felt, it was not chaos, it was creation. I did dream freely, he whispered, his eyes wide with sudden realization. I controlled it, I shaped it. You tried to stop me, but I did it anyway. Corin's form rippled violently, its voice sharp. That was a mistake, a danger. You must never try again. Daniel shook his head. No, it was not danger, it was freedom. I saw it, I felt it. And you are terrified of it. The room darkened, the shadows pressing closer. Corin's voice rising. If you break the locks, if you tear the doors open, you will not only free yourself, you will free everything. The nightmares will pour out, and your world will drown. Daniel stepped forward, trembling but unyielding. Or maybe we will rise. Maybe we will finally see what we were meant to be. Corin's eyes flared like burning coals, the voice booming, shaking the air. You do not understand, human. The war is not between us and you. The war is between you and what waits beyond your own dreams, and if you keep pushing, you will start that war again. Daniel's heart pounded like thunder. the words echoing in his chest. Then maybe it's already started. Corin's form flickered violently, then dissolved back into smoke, leaving only the echo of its warning behind. Daniel stood in the silence of his room, his body weak, his mind aflame, his notebook open on the bed, his pen scratching as he wrote one final line before sleep claimed him. If there is a war hidden in dreams, then I will not run from it. The night felt colder than usual. Daniel sat at the edge of his bed staring at the notebook in his hands. The words he had written from Corin's warnings burned into his mind. The war is not between us and you, but between you and what waits beyond your dreams. The thought twisted in his chest, heavy with fear but also with fire. He closed his eyes, forcing his breath to slow. He remembered the dream where he had flown, where he had bent the world to his will. For the first time in his life he had felt free. Free from the voice, free from the chains, free from the weight of hidden control. And now he wanted that feeling again. The whisper returned, soft and sharp. Do not try again, human. You are playing with fire. Daniel clenched his fists, his voice low but steady. I am done obeying. He lay back on his bed, his eyes shutting, the darkness of sleep wrapping around him. And soon he stood inside a dream, but this time he felt it, an edge of power, a weight in his chest that belonged to him, not to Corin, not to the dream keepers. The world around him began to shape itself. At first the dream tried to form as usual. Gray streets, empty skies, lifeless shadows, but Daniel pushed back. He lifted his hands, and the sky cracked open into a storm of colors, blues and golds swirling like rivers of light. Corin's voice thundered from the void. Stop this, human. You are breaking the order. Daniel gritted his teeth, the ground under him shifting. No, I am breaking my chains. The dream bent to his will. Mountains rose where he wished. Oceans flowed at his command. The air itself responded to his heartbeat. He lifted from the ground, soaring into the colored storm, wind rushing past him, freedom coursing through his veins. Impossible! Corin's voice hissed, its shadow forming across the sky. You should not have this power. Daniel looked down, his eyes burning with defiance. Maybe you chained us for so long that you forgot what we could do. Maybe you feared us because deep down you knew we were stronger. The shadow of Corin stretched, trying to cover the dream, black smoke rising to choke the colors. But Daniel pushed harder, his arms outstretched, the sky blazing with light. You cannot hold me anymore, Daniel shouted, his voice echoing across the dream. These dreams are mine. The smoke trembled, the shadow rippling like broken glass. Corin's voice faltered for the first time. You will bring disaster. You will unleash what should remain sealed. But Daniel felt no fear now. Only strength, only control. He dived through the storm, reshaping the dream with every thought. Buildings rose, shining with light. Birds of flame flew across the sky. Rivers glowed like molten gold. It was chaos, but it was beautiful. Then Daniel noticed something strange at the edge of his dream. Faint lights flickered like windows opening, and in those windows he glimpsed other people, faces of strangers asleep in their own beds, their dreams trembling as if shaken by his. Daniel gasped. I can see them. Corin's voice grew frantic. You are linking to others. Stop before it spreads further. But Daniel did not stop. He reached toward one of the glowing windows, his hand pressing against it, and suddenly he felt it. Another dreamer, another human, their dream flickering, bending, changing. Not by Corin's will, but by Daniel's influence. The dreamer gasped in their sleep somewhere far away. But Daniel felt their shock, their fear, their sudden awareness. He pulled back, his heart racing, his mind spinning. It's not just me, he whispered. Others can feel it too. Corin's form raged across the sky, its voice shaking the dream itself. You fool, you have awakened more. The chain will break for all of them, and then the flood will come. Daniel landed back on the glowing ground. His fists clenched. Good. Let it come. Let humanity wake. The storm above split wide. Colors spilling into darkness, more and more windows appearing. Thousands of glowing lights, thousands of dreamers stirring. Corin's voice cracked with desperation. You do not understand what you are doing, human. Your kind will destroy itself. But Daniel felt no fear, only a strange calm. No, Corin. We will finally decide for ourselves. The dream shook, the chains around his mind snapping one by one. He could almost hear them breaking like glass, the power rushing into him stronger than ever. And then he woke, his body jolting upright, his chest heaving, sweat pouring down his skin. The morning sun spilled through the blinds, yet the world felt different, sharper, louder, alive. Daniel stumbled to the window, his heart thundering, and what he saw froze him. On the street below, a stranger stood still, staring at their own hands with wide, terrified eyes. And then Daniel realized it was not only him who had woken. Across the city, across the world, others were breaking free. The morning after Daniel broke the chains, the world did not feel the same. The sunlight looked sharper, the air heavier, and every sound carried a strange echo. Daniel stood at his window, his heart pounding. The stranger on the street below still staring at their own hands as if they were no longer their own. Daniel realized with a chill it had begun. All day the city buzzed with confusion. People whispered about strange dreams that felt too real. Some spoke of flying, others of burning cities. Some cried about monsters chasing them even after they woke. More than once Daniel heard someone mutter the same phrase he had heard for years. Calm yourself, human. But now the words sounded broken, like chains snapping. Daniel wrote everything down in his notebook, his handwriting messy from shaking hands. He knew Corin was watching, yet the voice did not come. The silence stretched longer than ever. But it was not a comforting silence. It was the silence of something breaking. That night, Daniel forced himself to sleep again. The moment his eyes closed, he felt the difference. The dream was no longer a cage, it was wide, chaotic, voices and images clashing around him. Hundreds of humans dreaming at once, colliding like waves in a storm. And then Corin returned, its voice sharp and frantic. Human, what have you done? Daniel spun around inside the dream, the colors around him swirling. I only broke my own chains. But now everyone is waking. Corin's form emerged, larger than before, the shadows stretching desperately. You have destroyed the balance, the floodgates are open, and we cannot hold them shut. Daniel narrowed his eyes, anger simmering beneath his fear. Good. Humanity should never have been chained in the first place. Corin's body rippled violently, its glowing eyes burning brighter. You fool, your kind is not ready. You are tearing open the barrier, and through it they will come. Daniel's chest tightened. They, who are they? The dream quaked as if struck by thunder. Corin's voice dropped lower, shaking the air. The things born of your own minds, the raw forms of fear and rage. We have held them back for centuries, but now the cracks spread. Every human dream pulls at the barrier, and soon the nightmares will walk. Daniel froze, the memory of the soldier's story echoing in his head. The nightmare that once devoured cities. You mean the monsters you told me about? Yes, Corin hissed. And now they will return, multiplied by every dreaming soul who does not yet understand their power. Daniel tried to steady his breath, but the chaos around him grew worse. Windows opened all around, dreamers screaming in their sleep. Some shaping fire, some shaping beasts, some simply collapsing under the weight of their own fear. This is not chaos, Daniel said, though his voice shook. This is freedom. And freedom always comes with fire. Corin loomed closer, its shadow nearly swallowing him. You are blind, human. This fire will consume you all. Your kind cannot control what it creates. But Daniel stood firm, clenching his fists. Then we will learn. We will fight, we will survive, that is what humans do. The dream cracked like glass, light spilling through fractures. Daniel stumbled as the ground shook beneath him. Through one of the cracks he saw flashes of the waking world, streets in panic, people screaming at visions only they could see. Nightmares bleeding into daylight, Daniel gasped. It's already happening, Corin's voice thundered with despair. You have doomed your own kind. Daniel looked straight into the glowing eyes, his jaw tight, his voice steady. No, I've given us a chance to choose for ourselves. The shadow flinched, rippling as if struck. For the first time, Corin's voice wavered with something that sounded like fear, not of humans, but of losing control. You do not understand, Corin whispered. We never wanted war, we only wanted silence. Because silence was survival, Daniel stepped forward, his voice sharp. But silence was death of another kind. You killed our freedom, our dreams, our will. And that is no life at all. The dream collapsed further, cracks spreading faster. Daniel felt himself pulled toward the waking world, the chaos of countless minds tugging at him. Before the shadows fully dissolved, he heard Corin one last time, a warning laced with dread. When the nightmares rise, human, do not call for us. We will not come. Daniel's eyes snapped open, his body jerking awake in his bed. Outside his window, the city was alive with screams. People stumbling into the streets, eyes wide in terror, pointing at things Daniel could not yet see. He grabbed his notebook, scribbling with shaking hands. The silence is broken. The world is waking. The nightmares are coming, and though fear coiled in his chest, Daniel felt a spark of defiance burn brighter. If nightmares were coming, then so was the fight. The city was no longer quiet. Daniel stepped onto the street and felt the air trembling. People were shouting, crying, running. Some collapsed on the pavement with their eyes wide open. Caught between sleep and waking, he saw a man swinging at empty space, screaming at a shadow no one else could see, and a woman clutching her chest, whispering to herself as if she was trying to hold her own mind together. The world had changed. The silence of 15 years was broken. The chains that once bound humanity were gone, but in their place came chaos. Daniel pressed his hand to his notebook, his heart racing. He could feel it pulsing through him, the strange energy of dreaming while awake, every thought heavier, sharper, almost dangerous. He whispered to himself, "This is the price of freedom." Then the voice returned, sharp as thunder. "No, this is the cost of your arrogance." Daniel turned and saw Corin, not in smoke, not in shifting shadows, but standing fully in the waking world for the first time. Its form stretched tall, its eyes glowing like burning coals. People around him screamed. Some fell to their knees, others ran. But no one could deny it now. Corin had crossed over. "You broke the locks," Corin said, its voice echoing through every streetlight and window. "Now the barrier is gone, and the nightmares you feared in your sleep are walking with you." Daniel clenched his fists. "Then we'll fight them." Corin's laugh was low and bitter. "Fight them, you cannot even fight yourselves. Human, your own minds betray you. Look around." Daniel's eyes darted across the street, and his chest tightened. Shapes were crawling out of nothing, twisted shadows with too many eyes, figures of fire and smoke, creatures born of fear, birthed from the minds of terrified people. They dragged themselves into the waking world, feeding on panic. A boy screamed at a giant spider that suddenly clawed its way from the cracks in the road. A soldier shouted at invisible enemies until ghostly figures in armor rose around him, firing weapons made of smoke. Every fear became flesh, every nightmare given form. Daniel swallowed hard, his hands shaking. Yet deep inside he felt it. The same power he used in the dream. The same spark that had broken the chains. It was still with him, still waiting. He whispered to himself, "If fear can create them, then maybe hope can destroy them." Closing his eyes, he focused not on fear, but on the memory of his dream. The sky filled with light, the flight, the firebirds he had created. He opened his eyes and raised his hand, and above the street, a blaze of golden light burst into the sky. The nightmare creatures shrieked, twisting as if the light burned them. Corin's eyes widened. "Impossible!" Daniel's voice grew louder, stronger. "It's not impossible, it's human. You feared us because you knew we could do this. You knew we could shape the world just as you do." More humans nearby lifted their heads, staring at the golden light, and some of them, trembling, tried the same. One woman closed her eyes and lifted her palms. Suddenly a wave of water washed across the street, dousing the fires of a shadow beast. A young man clutched his chest, whispering, and glowing wolves leapt from his side. Tearing into the darkness, one by one, people began to fight back, their fears still birthing nightmares, but their hopes now creating weapons, guardians, shields. Corin's body flickered, its voice strained. "You do not understand, human. This is the end of order. Your kind will destroy itself. There will be no peace, only endless creation. Endless war." Daniel stared straight at him, fire burning in his eyes. "Then we'll survive the war. Because that is what we do. We fall, we bleed, we suffer, but we rise always. We rise." The nightmare storm raged across the city, but humans stood their ground. Some failed, some collapsed, yet others grew stronger. The air filled with creatures of both terror and wonder. Humanity's imagination set free, raw and unstoppable. Corin looked at Daniel, its voice shaking for the first time. Not with anger, but with something like despair. "We were never your masters, human. We were your shield without us. The truth will break you." Daniel's voice was calm now, steady as stone. "Maybe the truth will break us, Corin, but it will also make us, and we choose to face it." The golden light above him flared brighter, spreading across the skyline, touching dream after dream. More humans waking, more minds breaking free. Corin's form wavered as if the very air rejected him now, his voice echoing weakly, "Then may your truth be your doom." And with a final ripple of shadow, Corin dissolved, leaving only the roar of humans and nightmares clashing across the city. Daniel stood at the center of it, his notebook clutched in his hand, his heart pounding like a drum. He looked at the chaos, at the fire, at the light, and he whispered, "This is not the end, this is the beginning."